Let me share now a thought, a prayer demand from Yogananda Ji's Whispers from Eternity. This is the demand to see God's love in all human love. With the love of all human loves, I have come to love Thee, Thou God of all loves. Thou art the Father, anxious to protect His children. Thou art the little child, lisping love to its parents. Thou art the mother, showering infinite kindnesses on all her family. Thou dost flow in the all-surrendering love of the lover for the beloved. Thou art the love of friends for one another. Purify me with the reverence of a servant to his master. Teach me to love Thee with all pure loves, for Thou art the fountain of love, both earthly and heavenly. Bathe me in the fountain spray of all loves. People often say to us that I have difficulty feeling devotion, and this is very understandable given the society that we live in today. When we gaze into the eyes of a newborn baby who's freshly arrived from the astral world. For most souls, the astral world is a kinder place, a more loving place. And the new baby comes with this memory that you can see in his eyes. When I was growing up, I loved the British romantic poets like Wordsworth, who wrote, "The soul cometh from afar, trailing clouds of glory do we come, from God who is our home. Heaven lies about us in our infancy." And he captures this look in the eyes of a newborn. And the baby and the young of every creature have in their eyes this sense of innocence, of trust. And we've all probably felt love and have loved and have felt love in return. Maybe love for our parent or grandparent or our spouse, our child. And for the baby as he grows up, that love, that innocence is most often lost. And Wordsworth continues and writes the lines, "Shades of the prison house begin to close upon the growing boy." The expectations as we grow up, the expectations of parents, of teachers, responsibilities as we grow older, all conspire to make us forget those clouds of glory, of infancy, that innocent love. Swamiji tells how when he was a young child, he felt this great sense of wonder and happiness and deep love, only to have it recede as he grew up, but then to have it return to him in his first experiences of meditation. And Other than that, meditation and such spiritual experiences, almost no influence in our society encourages us to develop our love or devotion. And we're urged simply to apply our minds to getting good grades in school. Maybe we're trained as an engineer to understand the mechanics, the how of how the world works. Or maybe more intellectual pursuits, arguing the whys of why the world is the way that it is. But our environment discourages the exploration of the heart, the feelings of the heart beyond the mind. But it's not so hopeless, even for those who think that they can't feel devotion. Because if we can feel that we're loved and that we love others, if we have enthusiasm for spending time with dear ones, for watching children grow, or practicing our hobby or sport, walking in nature, or we love our work, all of these are expressions of God's love. And we just need to bring this love that we feel and offer it up to God, for it to become devotion. And in those you love, to let go of attachment, your personal desires for them, so that you can feel this. Instead, speak to the highest in them, their divine potential, and see in them an expression, a manifestation of God. And feel God expressing himself through the trees, through the sunlight, the growing children, your love for hobby or work. Simply love him in all of these expressions. And you may not feel devotion right away, but with some willpower, with some developing, singing bhajans, reading the words of our masters, of satsang, of prayer, this love awakens your heart more and more. Swamiji would work hard to develop devotion, chanting and praying every day for the gift to be able to feel a deep love for God. And Yoganandaji one day smiled at him lovingly, and he said, keep on with the devotion. Think of how dry your life is when you depend on the intellect. Swamiji tells a story of the Sufi woman saint, Rabia, when she lay on her deathbed, her body in pain, and her disciples came to console her. One of them said, "He is no true lover of God after all, who is not willing to suffer for God's sake." The saint replied, "This smacks of egoism to me." Then another disciple said, "He is no true lover of God, who is not happy to suffer for God's sake." The saint replied, "More than this is needed." "Then tell us, Mother, what should be the right attitude for a lover of God?" She said, "He is no true lover of God, who does not forget his suffering in the contemplation of the Supreme Beloved." With one pointed devotion, we simply forget everything else, all of the other petty things in life, all of the distractions, including our suffering. Thank you.
Love is always the answer is the title of our satsang this morning. And we know that all the great religions say that God is love. And I was just going to start with two very short quotes. One is from St. John in the Bible. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves okay, everything's good. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. And Swami says, ultimately, the only important thing you can do in life is love God. The only fact that truly matters in life is that God loves you. Such beautiful quotes. In our meditation, in yoga, when we think, what is our goal? Our goal is union with God, union with God's love. And we think of the love that God gives to us in manifesting himself as Krishna, as Rama, as Christ, as Buddha, as our great masters, these enlightened beings. They manifest themselves. God manifests himself as these great ones out of pure love. And why? To help show us how to love, and how to love more perfectly. We know that, the Indian scriptures say that the divine is Sat Chidananda, ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. And Swami tells us that bliss is love in motion. So if love is always the answer, let's also start with loving ourselves, because that's pretty much the key. If we can love God within ourselves, then we can love others. If we don't love ourselves, if we constantly judge ourselves, if we don't accept ourselves, if we criticize ourselves, then how will our life be? We'll end up projecting that judgment, criticism, perfectionism on others. They won't be happy. We will never be happy. So we have to love ourselves. Swamiji, in this beautiful book, In Divine Friendship, I'm going to hold it up. He writes so many letters on different topics to different devotees. And the very first chapter is on love. And a lot of what I am talking about today came from that chapter. But one of the things Swami says is that, we don't have to love our ego, but we love the soul qualities within us because they reflect God's love. We are made in his image. So we need to develop those soul qualities and love those qualities within ourselves. Love the light that flows through us. Love the intuition and inner guidance that we open to that flows through us. Love the energy that God is sending through us. And love that divine friendship that we can offer to all. So as we uplift ourselves in those soul qualities, that is what we can love. And then we may say to ourselves, yes, but what about all the mistakes I make? What about all that self-judgment that I still have? What about that I'm still feeling lost in delusion? God loves us in spite of our mistakes. God loves us in spite of our delusions. He doesn't love our mistakes. He doesn't love our delusions. But he loves us in spite of them. So what can we do? We can feel his power flowing through us. And it's him that's doing everything. If I'm judging myself because I'm not perfect, we can say, it's not me, it's God that flows through me, and I'm giving the results to Him. And if I let God flow through me, whatever's meant to happen will happen. And so we can just offer ourselves in everything that we do and not look at the results, but just say, my life is for you. I'm offering this act to you. I may not do it perfectly, but still, I'm offering it to you. So we need to love ourselves more and more in that way, just in a spirit of self-offering and knowing that it's God's qualities that are shining through us. And as those qualities do shine through us, we become a window of God's love to others. Love is always the answer when we try to love others. Because when we uplift our vibration, when we feel God flowing through us, it's God's vibration and love. It's the Guru's vibration that flows through us. And when we can send out that vibration to our friends, to our family, if we're just vibrating it, we may not even have to send it out, because if we are experiencing God's love, His peace, His wisdom, His energy, His joy flowing through us, that is who we are. We will be vibrating with that expanded, uplifted, divine consciousness. That energy will be creating the vibration that will affect others. And we become the window of God's love and those qualities to others. And even at the beginning, if people don't like the fact that we're on the spiritual path, the more we vibrate these divine qualities, the more it will magnetize them, it will change them. And they will begin to change spiritually as well, whether they know it or not. And as we begin to know ourselves as a channel of these divine qualities, Master talks about 8 particular divine qualities. The peace and calmness, joy and love, wisdom, light, sound, peace, Om. As we become the channels of this, we know who we are. We experience ourselves as the divine more and more. And once we begin to understand who we are, we understand who all others are. Swami has that song, Brothers, who knows himself, knows all men as brothers. And so we magnetize spiritual friends by having this vibration of love, of light, of peace. We attract people who are peace-loving, who love, who are seeking wisdom. And we begin to magnetize those friends, our spiritual family, magnetize those who can help us grow in spirituality, help us grow ever closer to God. And what about when we magnetize those people who hurt us? Are we going to let them control our lives? If somebody hurts us, are we going to let that hurt control our lives? We can't control how others behave. We can't control what they say if they insult us. But we can control how we behave and how we react, how we respond to everything that is coming to us in life. And if we can respond with love, with centeredness, with peace, with calmness, then why be hurt twice? If somebody hurts us, if we resent them and we contract, if we contract, we push away God's love. If we contract, it just doubles our pain. Why would we want to double our pain? And so all of the lessons that God is bringing to us, everything He brings to our life, is so that we can grow spiritually. We certainly know that Swami Kriyananda's life was filled with people who were trying to pull him down, persecute him. And he always replied with love. And I'll read one of these letters that he wrote from In Divine Friendship. He says, If we feel God's love in someone's love for us, then that is right and good. I remember once in India telling Anandamoy Ma how much I and others in America loved her. Her reply was, "There is no love except God's love." The worldly ego might take her reply as a put-down, but I understood it as a reminder that we can truly only love others to the degree that we do so consciously as instruments of God's love. It is easy to feel love for those who are kind and good, and easier still if they love us. But the test of godly love is to be able to feel it also for those who hate us, and especially for those who are determined to destroy us. God says to us, "They are my children too." In other words, if you love me, you must love them also. For they too are mine. We must love not only them, but all the tests that God sends us. So how do we nurture such love? How can we practice that on a daily basis? Meditation. It's also why the great masters are born, so they can show us how we can learn to love like them. Meditation, get into our centers, uplift our consciousness. Smriti, remember who we really are. Love, light, peace, joy. Meditation, stillness, stillness of heart. Yoga's chitta vritti nirod. Yoga, that union with God's love, is when we can still the waves of feeling in the heart. We need to purify the heart of anything else but that desire for God's love. We need to still our mind in meditation. Practice silence, practice stillness. We had some folks here yesterday. We had a silent retreat, very few people. Silent retreat. They just wanted to spend the day in nature, in stillness, so they could listen to God's guidance, His whispers, to feel His love. So simple. Be quiet for a day and tune in to God's love that He's showering upon us all the time. A grateful heart will bring God's love to you so quickly. A grateful heart in which all of His qualities can grow within you. A grateful heart that is like a fortress that will keep adversity out, that will keep our ego nature subdued, that will help us transcend that self-definition that I am separate, that I am limited, that I am not good, that I cannot love unconditionally. A grateful heart is like a fortress and can just withstand all the assaults of the ego. And a grateful heart is pure and is like a temple, and it's where we keep our love for God deeply protected within us, and practicing God's presence. In God's presence, in God's love, nothing can touch us. Yes, we need to know that everything that comes to us comes from God, and in our consciousness we need to always remember that. But if we are in the presence of divine love, if we live in love, what will we care? What happens to us? I'd like to end with one of my favorite quotes from the Bible. It's by the Christian Saint Paul. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, And if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship, that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrongs. Love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. And now, these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.